Is that opal in your collection the real deal? My name is Sheila from Satin Crystals, and today we are going to discuss real versus fake opal. If you like this kind of content, now is the perfect time to subscribe to the Satin Crystals channel and like this video so we know what to make more of. Let's learn about real opals. What is opal? Opal is a hydrated silica stone, and it comes in precious opal formation, which you may most be familiar with that flashy play of color that it has, versus the common opal. Common opals come in more of a flat uniform color, like this brown opal here, the yellow dendritic opals I have on here. Now, common opals are the most common ones, so you'll find them all over the gemstone market. They are very popular for crystal healing and for collectors because they come in much larger pieces, so they can be shaped much easier and more affordable for your crystal healing for collectors. Common opals and precious opals all have similar properties, so the tests I'm going to show you can be mostly applied to both forms. Now, the best way to tell if you have real or versus fake opal is if you have a trusted vendor. They know what they're selling, they know what they're talking about, they have studied and researched their stones, so you can just easily go ask them and they'll have the answers for you. If you don't have a reputable trusted vendor, you can use some of the tips I have here to determine if the opal is real or not. Real opal will always have a white crystal streak. So regardless of its outwardly color, whenever you streak the stone against an unglazed white tile, the powder that comes out of the stone will always be white if it is real opal. So if it is a different color, it could either be a dyed opal or a totally different stone. This you'll want to do, of course, with a piece that you're not worried about damaging. You will streak it until it powders over the tiled plate. So white streak, real opal. Real opal has a hardness of a 5 to a 6.5 on the Mohs scale of hardness. That means that it cannot be scratched by anything that is lower than a 5 on the Mohs scale of hardness. For example, fluorite, even your fingernail, whatever is softer than a 5 will not scratch opal. Opal will be scratched by anything that is harder than a 6.5 on the Mohs scale of hardness. For example, this yellow quartz here that I have is a 7 on the Mohs scale of hardness. So if I scratch this opal, it will leave a scratch mark. Of course, you want to do this somewhere discreet on the stone or on a stone that you're not worried about damaging as well. Now, do keep in mind that some bolder opals will be as hard as a 7, so the quartz may not scratch it, but it still may be an opal. So you want to do other tests to combine your results. Real opals will have random inclusions and patterns. If it's a real opal, you will see all kinds of mineral inclusions. You'll see random patterns, not a uniform pattern throughout the stone, and varying degrees of color, like this varying degrees of green in this real opal sphere. If you have the precious opals, you will have the play of color that is all random flashes coming from within the stone, rather than a uniform pattern where the flashes are all in a pattern in the same structure. So you can tell between real and fake opals by looking at their patterns. If it looks a little bit too man-made, eye perfect, then you should be a little suspicious. Real opal can have air bubbles. So unlike many other gemstones where you can distinguish between the real thing and glass, opals actually can have air bubbles in the real thing. So to tell it from glass, here we have a glass bracelet, and if you look through your diamond loupe, your microscope, and you find air bubbles, you may find the same thing in a real piece of opal, like this pink opal bracelet here. So you're going to have to use other tests to determine if you have glass or real opal. Real opal is not magnetic. Now, sometimes your opal piece may have some magnetic inclusions, some mineral inclusions that are magnetic, which could confuse you. But opal itself is actually diamagnetic, which means that it has a slight repellent towards the magnetic forces. This is kind of like shungite, if you've seen the shungite video. But real opal should not be magnetic. Real opal can be fluorescent, meaning under a UV light, like this flashlight I have here, the opal can glow. Like this highlight opal here glows green under UV light, and some rare opals can even fluoresce just in daylight. So this is not an indication that it is or isn't an opal, but if it does glow, it can be opal, as some opals do have fluorescence. Real opals do not have layers. So sometimes composite opals will show layers because they're a real piece of precious opal that is glued on top of a backing. And when you look at it from the side, you'll see layers down the side of the opal. And that is an indication of a composite opal, one that has been manipulated so that it can look a little bit better. But keep in mind that real opal does not have layers. Real opals can change color in water. Now, I showed you this in the opal meaning video, so you saw a test of it, but this applies to the hydrophane or the porous opals, like these Ethiopian opal necklaces. Once in water, they can turn a little bit more transparent, and once they are dried, they will return to their natural color. So this is an indication of real hydrophane opals. Real opals will not turn cloudy. Now, while we're mentioning putting opals in water, while they will turn a little bit more clear and transparent, they should not turn cloudy. Cloudy may be an indication of glue, especially those composite opals where the glue is coming apart and turning into little clouds within the stone. That is an indication of a synthetic or a fake. So if you see clouds, beware. Real opal will be cool to the touch. Like most natural gemstones, when you pick it up, you'll feel that cool sensation in your hand, and after a while it will warm up, but it is very gradual, unlike when you hold a piece of plastic or resin. So this is how you can tell the two apart. Real opal will react to acid. It is not as sensitive to acid as, say, calcite, which starts bubbling right away in vinegar. But over time, real opal will gradually disintegrate with acid. So you want to be aware of this if you are doing some tests on it. So those are some of the tests that you can conduct at home to tell if your opal is real or not. Now keep in mind that none of the tests are conclusive in themselves, so you will have to mix and match until you come up with your own conclusion. If you are still unsure, make sure to send it in to a certified gemological laboratory. They will be able to do the scientific tests for you and give you a final result. Now, if you know of any other home tests that we can do, make sure to share them here, as we always love to learn about it. What if you're confusing your opal with a different stone? This happens a lot, especially if you are a beginner. I'm just going to go over a few, and you can learn more at Satin Crystals. Of course, if you have questions, let us know and we will look up the answers for you. First of all, fire opal versus fire agate. To tell the difference, this is a fire opal, and it has that fiery orange red play of color inclusions within the stone, within the vein that you can see there. It seems to be coming from within the stone, penetrating from the top to the bottom, bottom to the top. Here you have a fire agate, and the fire agate is always a darker, more coppery red color than your fire opal. So the play of color is a little bit darker. The agate also will have its distinct either bubbly or layered formation. And as we said, opal does not have that layers within the structure. So you can tell those two apart that way as well. If you are new to opal, you might get it confused with opalite. Here we have opalite. It is a translucent, milky stone with some iridescent rainbow colors depending on the lighting. Here you have a real Ethiopian white opal stone, and they look pretty similar, but opalite is actually a man-made glass. So you want to make sure you know what you are buying. Opalite is beautiful and brings many people joy in itself. But if you're looking for real opal, you obviously want the real thing. Real opal will be much, much, much more expensive than opalite. You may also be confused between green opal and green serpentine. Both of these stones come in random green shades with lots of mineral inclusions and patterns. To tell them apart, green opal is a much harder stone on the Mohs scale of hardness than serpentine. It can easily scratch your serpentine, which starts at just a 2.5 on the Mohs scale of hardness. Also, green opal is much lighter in weight than your serpentine. So just placing them in your hand, you can feel which one is heavier if you have the same size of each stone. This serpentine is much heavier than the green opal. Of course, you can also place them on a scale and check that way. Another thing you can do is feel the surface of the two stones. So when I'm feeling the green opal, it is a much smoother, glossier feel than serpentine. Serpentine has a more soapy feel. So it's like rubbing your finger over a bar of soap. And lastly, green opal is much pricier than serpentine. Serpentine is much more common on the gemstone market, and it is much more affordable. So if you are buying the two, you can tell by price difference as well. Now this can also apply to your other common opal colors like pink or yellow. When you're comparing them to other gemstones that you may be confused about, you can use the same methods and see what the difference is between the two. I hope you learned a little bit more about how to tell if you have real opal in your collection. As I said before, if you have other tips to share with us, please do write them below so that we can all learn and benefit. Now, if you want to know even more about real versus fake opals, we do have a whole article at Satin Crystals, and you'll learn more tests you can do. You will learn about different treatment methods like the dyeing or the sugar heating, and synthetic versus real opals as well. While you're there, we do have a whole collection of real opals for you to shop from, jewelry and opal pieces like this blue opal sphere here. You could also join the Satin Crystals VIP Club. It is free, and we send out weekly information about your favorite gemstones. As always, I thank you for subscribing to our channel, for being here with us, and spreading your positive energy here in this world.